7 o'clock. I want to call to order this annual town meeting, June 23rd, 2020. I want to ask the moderator if the warrant is legal.
Yes, as the town clerk, the warrant has been posted according to the Mass General laws and the bylaws of the town law.
Thank you very much. So I just want to let people know, I still see that we have a number of people who are outside, and given the fact that it has taken time for people to get in for obvious reasons, we will give them the opportunity to get into the meeting before we go ahead with the regular business. So we will recess for about 5 minutes or so. So please be patient, stay where you are, and we'll get going in a few minutes. Thank you very much. Everyone who's on the line out there has come back in, so everyone's here. So we can now, I will call this annual town meeting back to order. Okay. Typically, I go through a whole bunch of things that we do at the town meeting, et cetera, and I'm going to do something a little bit different tonight for obvious reasons, but before we do that...
Dave, your mic needs to come on.
Oh, thank you. Turn my mic on. There we go. How is that? Is it on? Ah, there we go. Good. Thank you. So, we have a list of visitors here. Town nurse Trish Parent, Dr. Fitzpatrick, Blacksmith Valley Superintendent, Dennis Westgate, DPW Director, Kenny Coster, Accountant, Michelle Sanford, Town Crier, Mark DeFronso, Fire Chief, Janice Nowicki, Social Services Director, Brian Mason, thank you. Koppelman and Page, the Town Council, Matthew Batchel, Library Director, Joseph Maruschek, Mendon Superintendent, Andrew St. George, the Recreation Director, and Maureen Cohen, MV School District, Mendon School District, thank you. Do you have a motion to accept those visitors? Second. Any discussion? All those? Let's do it the new way. All of you should have a green card and a red card, so let's do the practice with this. All those in favor, hold up the green card. Ooh. All those opposed, hold up a red card. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Good. I guess that's going to work tonight. Very good. So, as you see, one of the things we're doing differently tonight, we will not have any voice votes tonight. We will use the green cards and the red cards. So you need to think of those as a voice vote. When I say aye, green card, obviously, red card for no. I'll just do a quick look. Like I do a quick here. If it's clearly one way or the other, I'll make the call. If it's close, and I'm not sure about it, doing the quick look, then we'll have a standing count, like we've done in the past. So you really got to think about the cards as replacing the voice vote for tonight. Okay, so one thing I want to talk about tonight is a number of people have worked very, very hard to get this town meeting to work tonight. And the most important thing I want to talk about is the safety precautions that have been put into place so that we can do this as safely as we can. The first thing is that I've been in touch with the town nurse for the last 2 or 3 weeks to talk about how things are, what the trends are, what are some things we should do. And I even spoke with her yesterday with regard to where the numbers are. And her information to me, and she's the one who would know this, is that the numbers here in the town of Upton are excellent. We haven't had anybody new that has become infected for like 2 or 3 weeks, she said. So therefore, I wanted to know what that was before I considered what we would do tonight. The second thing, the social distancing. The third thing, everyone has to wear a mask. We have air being circulated from the outside through here. So we know there's a lot of question about making sure the air is being circulated. That is happening. The other thing that's going to happen is this. If you look, the microphones for this evening, if you look at the visitors section, over there, the visitors section, you see 2 microphones there. There's a tall mic and a short mic. Yeah, it's for what you think it is. A tall person uses a tall mic, a short one a short mic. Now, there's a gentleman sitting there, okay, and what his job is to make sure the microphone is clean. So when you're done speaking, he will wipe the microphone down before the next person comes to speak. So we ask that you not touch the microphone, you not play with it or whatever. But if it accidentally happens, you should feel safe because he's just wiped it down. So, get as close as you need to, try not to touch it, and we'll do that as safely as we can. We also have a set of microphones over there for the same reason. So, given where you are sitting, if you want to get up to speak, go to the microphone that's closest to you. You will also notice when you're at the microphone, there are lines on the floor, 6 feet distancing, et cetera, et cetera. Please respect that. Another thing we're doing to try to help with respect to minimizing the use of microphones, I will be reading all the motions this evening. That way we don't have to have the individual sponsors get up to read the motions. Clearly, if you wish to speak as a sponsor to the motion, you can come to one of the microphones and do that. We want you to continue to do that. The other thing also, so let me ask you, can you all hear me fairly comfortably?
Yes.
Okay. What we weren't sure about, thank you, the green cards are going up, good. What I wasn't sure about before we came tonight was whether or not we would have to wear the mask while we're using the microphone. Well, it seems like, at least for my case, I can wear the mask while I'm speaking, using a microphone. So I will continue to do that. It's your choice when you get to the microphone to do that or not to do it. But we've got the new mics. If they work with the mask on, please wear the mask. If they don't and you need to take the mask off, that's okay. Because keep in mind, we're going to have people wiping the microphone in between anyways. Okay? So again, those are all the things that have been done before the meeting so that we can make this as safe a meeting as we can. Now, I'm not going to stand up here and say everything's 100%. No one can say that. And if I were, you know I'd be lying to you. But we have made this as safe a town meeting as we can have. And given my conversations with the town nurse yesterday with regard to the numbers, it is my decision as moderator to decide to have the town meeting. The state of Massachusetts has given the moderator the authority to either continue with the meeting or to not continue with it. The Board of Selectmen calls the meeting, the town moderator decides whether we can do it or not. It is my decision, given the information I've gotten, the fact that we can have the town meeting and we will have the town meeting. Okay? Trying to think if there's anything else on that. I think I'm all set on that. So, thank you. Next thing we have is, is there a point of order from somebody, I guess, somewhere? Who has a point of order? Okay, come on down to the microphone, please. It's all right, right here. And as always, please state your name and address when you come to the microphone.
Point of order, Michelle Antonelli, 148 South Street.
Thank you.
You okay?
Move it.
That might not be on. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Thank you. Michelle Antonelli, 148 South Street.
thank you.
I'm requesting that we consider adjourning, making a motion to adjourn this meeting. We have people in the parking lot who cannot come in, who are age 65 and older, who have underlying compromising conditions. This is not the safest venue for this meeting. The CDC recommends that no large gatherings be held. This is a large gathering. The state recommended guidelines suggest that we have a virtual meeting or a meeting outside in fresh air, if feasible. I agree, you've adopted a belt and suspenders motion here, and I appreciate that, Dave. However, it is not safe for people that recognize the complications of this illness. Therefore, I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting, to reschedule it for outside.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting and move it to outside somehow. There has been a second. Any discussion on the motion? You're gonna go to the microphone.
Hi, my name's Maureen Byrne, 158. Oh, sorry.
Let's go on here first. Go ahead.
Ralph Whitney, 11 Hartford Ave, Norton. You have like absentee ballots for your selectmen, voting on the selectmen. I don't know why, you can't have absentee ballots to vote on your articles. And then in that case, I know you people are trying to get more of the town involved. But every time I come to this meeting, you got like a minimal fraction of the members of the town voting on these articles.
Okay, let me address a couple of things if I can. The way the laws are with regard to town meeting, things like absentee ballots are not part of the town meeting process. That's just the way the law is, even before and now. With elections, you have absentee ballots and so on, but not for town meetings, okay?
And why is that?
Because that is the way the town meeting works.
Well, it works for you, but...
No, it's not how it works for me. It's how it's worked for town meetings for 200 or 300 years. I'm not trying to get into a debate about that.
Okay,
I'm simply saying that the way the law is, the town meeting is the way we do it. There's a warrant, there's articles on the warrant, the people meet in a room if possible, we discuss the articles on the warrant, and then we vote on those things. That's how it works. It's never worked where we have absentee ballots from the outside. Clearly, with what's been going on, the legislature has changed things so that with representative town meetings, they are doing it differently. But with open town meetings, the decision was to allow for the town meetings to work pretty much the same as long as you put in health and safety conditions. So I can't get into a discussion about why it is they don't allow absentee ballots. They just don't. Okay, that's how the rules
Okay,
are.
well, then I guess you're happy with having a minimal amount of the town coming in and voting on these articles.
Well, okay. Please don't presume what I think or feel, okay? We have a quorum. With all due respect, we've had other town meetings where we've had fewer than this number of people here. Okay, we have.
Call your points.
And don't think for 1 minute that for the past month and a half, everybody who's been thinking about this town meeting has been thinking about the fact that whatever decision they make, there's going to be a whole lot of people who are not going to be happy with that decision. Okay? So you got to keep that in the back of your mind that no matter what we do, and I'll just say this, even if you had it outside, that would cause a whole nother set of problems. If we were to go out to the field right now, okay, it is so hot out there that many people here wouldn't be able to go. Why? Because it's too hot out there. So that's one of the things that we had to keep in mind, and other towns have thought about as well. So it's not so easy to just simply say, let's just have the meeting outside. Okay? And how do the acoustics work with the microphones and so on? That's another thing. So therefore, not to get into the debate, but I'm just trying to explain that the process has been a long process, time-consuming, and we've needed to have discussion about it. So I hope I've answered the question about that.
Yeah, you're happy with the conditions you got. That's what I'm...
Sir, I'm not happy with the conditions at all, quite frankly. I hope I've made that clear. But the conditions are what they are. Okay? Anything
Well,
else?
I've talked to people, and I said, hey, you going to the meeting? They said, what meeting? No one told me about a meeting.
Well, it's on the
Yeah.
website, it's been posted.
Well-
So, sir,
Okay, I'm just letting you know.
Thank you.
This is representing your whole town.
okay, thank you. Ma'am, go ahead.
Hi, Maureen Byrne, 158 Westboro Road. I can imagine that I'm one of just a handful of people in the auditorium who actually works with COVID on a daily basis and has since the beginning of the outbreak. And I don't feel I'm going to support this motion to adjourn because I just don't feel that these conditions, I don't feel this is an emergency and it can be postponed for the safety and well-being of the Upton residents. We wear a N95 mask and a cover mask, goggles, face shield, and we still have people who contract COVID. There's an emotional, financial, and physical toll on those people. And to ask the Upton residents who are of age and disabilities not to be able to attend, I think is unfair at this point.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Oh, one more thing. As I'm here, I do see a handful of people not wearing their mask properly. It needs to be over your nose and your mouth.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So if you have a mask on, make sure it's both nose and mouth. Thank you very much. She's next, and then you'll be next after.
Michelle Antonelli, 148 South Street. To the point that the gentleman across the way was making, the last two meetings, we've had over 300 people participating. At this particular meeting, we're looking at a huge impact as far as doing taxes for raise and appropriation for making raises and increasing people's salaries. This is something that everybody across this town should be allowed to vote on. This is something that everybody, regardless of age, underlying conditions, should have a decision, should have the ability to make a decision about this. So we have disenfranchised a huge component of our people, and you have all been made well aware of people that have attended town meetings for years who have notified you today that they are not coming because of these conditions. So yes, it would have been a hardship perhaps on the staff in the town to make this meeting outside. Any one of us would recognize the heat as a dissuading factor perhaps, but we could have brought a scarf. We cannot do anything about this air that we're all sharing right here. It's wonderful that Upton has been so minimally affected. I hope it remains so, but I would ask you please to consider the people that want to be here, that want to share in this decision, and there's more than 200 people that would have been here because there have been for the last 2 meetings and more. Thank you for your time.
Yes, go ahead.
Along with the issue of safety, there's also the concern about trying to vote on a budget that we don't understand financial positions of the citizens of the town. We're making judgments based on the economy as it stands. Right now we have federal funds being pumped in. People are getting extra money in their unemployment checks. Some people are getting paid even though they're not working. And when all this comes to a point at the Fed, there's an expiration date for this. And at that point, they expect huge layoffs or collapse of the economy. And we're going to vote on a budget in a vacuum right now. I'm suggesting, along with other people who would rather wait and do this in a reasonable situation and with good information so that we can feel good about what we're voting for. And we won't force people out of town because they can no longer afford to live here.
Anyone else? Ms. Andrews?
No problem. Bill Andrews, 84 High Street. I would like to move the motion.
Okay, is there a second to move the question? Second. Okay, so think most of you have been here. Moving the question means you've heard enough discussion, and it seems like there's no one else to talk on it, so it would make sense that we vote to say, we'll stop the discussion, and then we'll vote on the issue at hand. So right now, the vote is to move the question. Okay? It's not to vote on the question, it's just to move it. So if there's 2/3 of you who've heard enough and you want to then vote on the question, you'll then say yes, and so on and so forth. So, all those in favor of moving the question, hold the green card up. Down. All opposed, red card up. Okay, the motion to move the question passes by a 2/3 majority. Now we're going to vote on the question itself, and just so that I can be clear, so you understand what it is. The question is to adjourn the meeting to some other time and to have it outside. Is that what the motion was? Yeah. Thank you. So there's no specific date attached to that, but that's fine. But the motion is to have the meeting outside. Okay? I'll say right now, it doesn't mean it's going to happen tonight outside. I'll just tell you that right now, because we're not prepared to have the meeting outside right now. But the motion is to adjourn the meeting tonight and have it outside. If a majority of people vote to do that, okay, then the meeting will be adjourned and then something will happen. Okay? If you don't want to do that, if you want to continue with the meeting, then you will vote no on that motion. Is that clear? Good. All right. So, all those in favor of adjourning the meeting and then having it outside at a later time, please raise a green card. Okay? All those opposed? The motion is lost. Okay? Clearly the motion is lost. Okay. So, again, given the information that I've been given in the past, I still feel as if we can continue with the meeting. Okay. You know what we forgot to do? Pledge of Allegiance. So if we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So, the first thing we're going to do is, as we do with most annual town meetings, we have a consent calendar. And what a consent calendar is a group of articles that we set as one motion. We vote on this unanimously because we talk about it every year. There's never any questions about it. And it's the kind of thing where it'll help us save some time. So, on the consent calendar, what I have is article number 1, which is the annual report. Article number 3, which is the Water Enterprise Fund. So if you have questions on that, then you don't want to put that on the consent calendar. And you should let me know by having a hold if you don't want it on the consent calendar. Article 4 is the Wastewater Enterprise Fund. Article 6 is the PEG access and cable related fund for fiscal year 2021. The next article is Article 8, which is the Chapter 90 funds. The next article on the consent calendar is 12A, which is the community preservation funds, all the ones that we do every year. 12B is also community preservation fund. And Article 13, which is the free cash going to the Board of Assessors for their recertification work. So if there's no hold on any of those articles, I'll accept the motion to accept those on the consent calendar. Okay? Is there a second? Second. Okay. Since there'll be no debate on that, all those in favor, raise the green card. Great. All opposed, no. Thank you. The motion passes unanimously. So, Mr. Flaherty, before we get into the budget, sometimes you have comments to make about the budget before we begin. Do you want to do that tonight or not?
I think everything is self-explanatory at this point, Mr. Moderator. This has been, it's been out there since the beginning of February anyway, with the exception of the school members. And at this point, I think it's self-explanatory.
Okay, thank you. So, what is a little bit different this year is that the budget has been broken up into two sections, Article 2A and then Article 2B. Article 2B is the regular going through the line items of the budget. Okay, 2A deals with the Mendon Upton School District. So we'll deal with 2A first. Okay, I will read that as a motion. Yes. Oh, but your presentation, so
2 minutes.
would you like to wait until after 2A is done, right before 2B, or do you want to?
I should just do it.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, good. So there is a quick presentation by the town manager on the budget, so he'll do that right now.
Good evening, everybody. Derek Nizzi, Town Manager. So I'm just trying not to stand everybody's way here. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes just talking about the budget. You know, there's been multiple meetings, both Finance Committee, the Board of Selectmen, Capital Budget Committee is here as well, all had a hand in developing this budget here this evening. So for those of you that are not familiar with it, I just want to spend a few minutes just kind of giving you the 40,000 foot level. So we are presenting this evening a balanced budget of $24.6 million. And so this first slide just really depicts how we're going to pay for this budget. So our various sources of revenue. In particular, I'm going to talk about state aid in just a minute. But as you can see here, 87% of our revenue is generated by property taxes, both commercial, personal property, and then your residential taxes. So again, that is the lion's share of how we pay our bills year to year. Which, to a certain degree, we've always talked about expanding our commercial tax base, but in the time that we're in now, this allows us to be a little bit more resilient with what's going on with the pandemic, because we're not dependent upon commercial tax base, such as hotel taxes, meal tax, so on and so forth. Moving on, you'll see here our local receipts, so that's our code enforcement revenues, our ambulance revenues, those types of revenues, our motor vehicle excise tax revenues represent about $2 million in receipts. And then quickly, you'll see the state aid here of approximately $845,000, which is only 4% of our entire budget comes from the state. So I just want to foot stomp that for a minute. Next slide. So here's our breaking down state aid just a little bit further. So you'll see here that a portion of it is made up from our Chapter 70, which is our education funding. Again, and Dr. Maruchek, he would say that's obviously not a lot of money to help support our school system. Our UGA, so UGA is unrestricted government aid. That's the money that we use to help subsidize government operations. That's $565,000, and you can see the rest for yourself. Again, not a lot of money comes from the state, a little north of $800,000. So when we talk about what's going on at the state level, there was a meeting yesterday. They talked about potentially a $4 to $6 billion projection in revenue losses. I had a conversation with our state representatives today, and he confirmed all that. So the reason why the state hasn't developed their budget for two primary reasons. One, because they delayed up until July 15th, in which folks can file their personal income taxes. So they have a loss in the month of April alone of about $2.5 billion. So they haven't seen that money. So they're waiting to see what happens after July 15th when folks file their personal income taxes. So they expect to make up some of their losses there. Secondly, they're hoping that the federal government steps in, much like they did with the ARA funding. So remember the Great Recession in 2010, 2009 time period, when they had the American Resource and Recovery Act, they used dollars then from the federal government to help subsidize states because of lost revenues. So there is a hope by the state that there will be some type of CARES Act, in this case, to help offset and subsidize lost revenues at the state level. So the state, they're not going to develop their budget until September at the earliest. So, which is why here we are this evening talking about our budget. Because again, only 4% of our budget comes from the state. So therefore, it has a very limited impact on what we do in and year out. Next slide. So when we talk about our budget, we have lost sight of this conversation up until this year. Up until every other previous year, we talked about the debt that's coming off. The fire station is now paid off. As of this year, you'll see that in your residential tax bills. About $383,000 came off this year's budget, which will not be taxed because it was an excluded debt. So quick math is probably average about $100 to $150 per household. Next slide. And so here's just a quick breakdown of the $24.6 million. You see education represents 57% of our budget. Right? Public safety represents 14%, general government 5%, public works 10%, and then there's a lot of other stuff in there that I call fixed costs, right? So your benefits, your debt service, your wages are all embedded in there. So we have a very limited opportunity as far as where cuts can be made, because a lot of the things that we do every year are fixed. We have to pay our utility bills, we have to pay our snow and ice bill, we have to pay our contractual wages to our employees. Those are fixed. Our pension liability went up 11% this year. Right? As a fixed cost, we don't have any say in that. We have to pay the bill. So before I break here, I just want to make mention, because this also comes up, is the town is in good, strong financial condition because of our free cash position and because of our general stabilization position. You'll see at the bottom here, general stabilization represents $2.2 million approximately, and that was because we've had strong free cash reserves over the last couple of years, and we were able to invest $500,000 each year over the last 2 years to build up our general stabilization. You'll see the first article in 2 minutes. We're going to tap into that account because it's what we would consider our rainy day fund. To a certain degree, it's raining outside, so we need to use a portion of those dollars to help subsidize and offset the increased costs of the school districts. And then lastly, free cash. So free cash is currently sitting at $783,000. If all articles were to pass this evening, we will walk out our town meeting with approximately $514,000 still balanced in our free cash reserves. So we'll have $2 million left over in general stabilization, $500,000 left over in free cash. Again, worst case scenario, if something were to happen, we can make adjustments in the fall at the special town meeting based upon what happens with state revenues. So we feel confident that this budget today gives us the greatest flexibility to be able to respond and move a little to the left or a little to the right, depending on what happens at the state level. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So, with that being said, we will now do Article 2A. I will read the motion, and then we will go from there. Article 2A, I move that the town transfer $259,699 from the general stabilization account to fund the additional assessment for the Mendon Upper Regional School District, which is $202,261, and for the purpose of funding the town's assessment for the Blackstone Valley School District of $57,438. Is there a second?
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation?
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
Any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, hold up the green card. All those opposed, hold up the red card. The motion carries by does this need to be a 2/3 majority? I forget. Two-thirds majority. Thank you very much. Okay, Article 2B, and this is where we're going to go through the budgetary process. So, to give you a little heads up, it's page 13 in here is where you're going to have to go to, okay? All right. So, Article 2B. I move that the town vote to fix the salaries and compensation of all officers of the town as provided by Mass General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 108 as amended, and to raise and appropriate $24,094,416 to defray expenses of the town department for the ensuing year, as set forth in the document entitled Finance Committee Report, Town of Upper Massachusetts, Fiscal Year 2021, Budget Recommendation, for all those items not requested whole, and as amended, if applicable, by vote of town meeting for those items requested whole. So, real quick, if you're new to this, what we're going to do is we're going to go through the line items. We're going to go department by department. Since the Finance Committee report has been online for how long, Mr. Flaherty? A couple of weeks?
That's about right.
Okay. Everyone has had time to take a look at that. Finance Committee report. So you've had a chance to look at this if you were thinking about possibly holding something. So we'll go department by department. If you want to hold an item, just yell out, hold. I'll ask you to tell me what the name of the item is. It's a little different this year. We don't have actual line items you can state, but you can at least tell me what it is that you wish to have held. So we'll turn to page 13, Finance Committee report. Top of the page, it says up to budget fiscal year 2021 summary. And the very first thing is account number 113, town meetings. Anything to be held there? 114, town moderator. 122, selectmen. There's a hold on the selectmen. Could you please state the specific name that you want to hold?
Hi, Shelley Cook, 43 Mendon Street.
Yeah.
I'm unclear on reading the first part as opposed to the one starting on page 41.
What is page 41?
Page 41 for wage salaries.
Okay, hey, hold on a second. We don't hold the specific line items of wage salaries. Those don't get held, okay? But if you were to look at that and say that you're concerned about something, then what you need to do is then look at, let's say, the selectmen's budget and say what it is that you wish to have held.
So my question is, does that relate to page 41, Board of Selectmen Department?
Yes,
Okay.
it does.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would like to hold on HR Director, Executive Assistant, Town Planner, and Town Manager, please.
Okay, what you can't, you can't hold what's on page 41. What you can hold is what's on page 13. So the question you're having is, the thing you want to hold, your question is, where does it appear in the budget? So can someone help us with that? Town accountant? Wages, which is which one?
5,100. 281, it's 281, 224.
281, 224.
Yeah.
So the one with the 25.83% increase?
There we go. Yes, that's the one you want to hold.
Perfect.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so that's, so selectmen wages is going to be held. Okay. Anything else set for the selectmen? Okay. Manager, 123. Finance Committee, 131. Reserve Fund, 132. Accountant, 135. Capital Budget, 137.
Sorry, possible hold on accountant?
Yes. And which name do you want to hold?
Possibly 5,100?
The wages, 44,231?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be town accountant wages, where it says 44,231, that's going to be held.
Can I ask a question regarding that as well?
What kind of question?
Does that also relate to the assistant accountant?
Does that relate to the assistant accountant? Yes, it does.
Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
it does. Thank you. Okay, 137, Capital Budget Committee. 141, Assessors. 145, Treasurer Collector. 151, Legal Department.
Sorry, hold on treasurer collector.
Okay, yeah.
Actually, you know what, I might have to go back. The accountant possibly not hold. It was for the treasurer collector.
I'm sorry, could you?
Sorry, I would like to not hold for accountant, but hold for treasurer collector.
Oh, okay, so you're going to take the hold off of the accountant.
Yes, please.
Yep, and Treasurer Collector?
Yes.
And are you looking at the wages spot? Okay, where the number is 72,164. that what you're holding? 70
Yes.
72,164, thank you. Okay. Legal Department, 151. Personnel, 152.
Hold.
Yep. Is that personnel or legal department?
Please hold the personnel committee expense. 541?
The personnel committee expense, 1,200?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, 158, tax title foreclosure. 159, management information systems. 161, clerk.
Hold.
Okay. Which one do you want to hold?
Wages, please.
Yes, town clerk wages, the number is 161.57, right? Okay. Okay, 163 registration, 171 conservation committee.
Hold.
Okay, which one?
Wage committee, please.
Conservation Commission clerk wages.
Correct.
Okay. Let's see. Next is 175 Planning Board, 184 Housing Authority, 192 Town Public Buildings, 210 Police.
Hold.
Hold on that. Which name?
5313, police training.
Okay, 50,
For 34,000.
oh, 5313, got it. 34,300. Okay, that would be actually building maintenance. So do you want the police training or building maintenance?
Training, please.
Okay, that would be 18,000,
Correct.
correct? Okay. Okay, 215 dispatcher, 220 fire,
Hold.
okay? Which line?
Possibly expense for 7.69%.
That is training, the 7.69% is training.
Okay, then it's 17.38,
For the expense?
correct?
Gotcha. Okay. 232, ambulance service. 241, code enforcement.
Hold.
Okay, which one?
Code enforcement expense,
That's the 23,500 number?
correct?
Okay. Uh, 291, emergency management. 292, animal control. 294, DPW, parks, forestry, and cemetery. 300, education. 421, DPW.
Hold.
Okay, which one?
Wages,
DPW wages, 487, 713.
also consultant,
Consultant, which is 15,000, right? Those two?
correct?
Okay. 422, DPW highway construction maintenance. 423, DPW snow and ice. 433, waste removal. 440, sewer. 450, water. 491, cemetery. 500, warrant articles. Oh, that's right, thank you, yeah, so there's nothing to hold it, right, right. 510, Board of Health.
Hold.
Okay, which one?
Wages,
The 69,046,
correct?
okay. $522, Health Service. By the way, if someone else wants to hold something, you can do that. I'm not saying you should, just wanted to make sure you're aware of it. Okay. 541, Council on Aging.
Hold,
Yep,
wages,
wages on that. $543, Veterans. 610, Library. 630, Beach.
hold, possibly.
Hold which one?
It looks like there's nothing new under salaries. I'm wondering if there was a separate spot for Recon.
I don't know. Oh, what? There's some, that's a revolving fund, maybe, and which has already been addressed with the consent calendar.
Okay. No hold.
So no hold on that, okay? Let's see, 650, Parks. 691, Historical Commission. 710, Retirement of Debt. 725, Debt Service, Short-Term Interest. 751, Interest on Long-Term Debt. 752, Interest on Short-Term Debt. 820, State Assessments. 911, Retirement. 913, Unemployment Compensation. 916, Payroll Taxes and Medicare. 945, Liability Insurance. 950, Trust Fund Committee. 990, Transfers Out. And the other things there, that's just what the total would come up with. Right, okay, fine. So, the ones that we've held. So, the individual who did the holding, they need to stay near the microphone because when we get to you, it'll be real quick. You'll have to state the reason why you held something. So be ready for that, okay? Good, thank you. All right, so we have a motion to accept everything that was not held. So those in favor of everything that wasn't held, hold up the green card. Opposed, hold up the red card. Passes unanimously. Okay, so let's go back. Oh, we have another visitor, so while you're coming forward. Okay. David Meridian, State Representative. We have a motion to accept him, visitor? Second? Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, hold up the green card. Opposed, no, hold up the red card. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Good. So we're going to, oh yeah, we have to have the motion to accept the budget that wasn't held, correct? I didn't do that yet, did I? I don't think I did. Did I do that? You just did that, okay. Thank you. All right, I want to make sure. All right, so go back to page.
The first one is page 13, selecting pages 281.
Okay, great. So, the first item that was held, selectmen wages, it's, the number is 281, 224, percent change at 25.83%. You held it, please state why.
Name
Do
and
we have
address
name
again?
and town?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Once you do it once, we're all set. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I actually have a question for, I guess it would be FinCom as well as the Board of Selectmen, Town Manager. I watched the video the other night, actually I was in attendance also for the pre-meeting, and one of the things that came up that was that we are currently in a possible worst-case scenario or planning for a worst-case scenario, such as that of 2009 and 2010, and we were preparing for core critical services. It was mentioned that then if it's worse than 2009, 2010, then we should prepare for it. So my concern is, if it's going to be worse, why are there raises of sometimes more than 5% when I would expect it to be possibly level funded or for all non-contract employees until the CARES Act, which was previously mentioned, actually comes through in possibly September. And also going along with that, with our general stabilization fund as well as our free cash, what about next year? What if next year is even worse?
Okay, so the specific question about the salary increases for that item, I don't know if the board wants to talk about that or the town manager?
Yeah, I'm happy to address that. So I would say in the general sense, I want to talk about salary increases, COLA, and other wage increases in this budget. Because, as you pointed out, there's a fiscal crisis in some communities. We have 4 unions, and we have negotiated collective bargaining agreements with each one of our 4 unions. Each year, we are abided by that. We have to provide the COLA increase and the step increase, which is found within those collective bargaining agreements. So you'll see that throughout the budget, that each one of those union employees are receiving what's contractually owed to them. Additionally, we have a very small subset of non-represented employees. And it's always been tradition that we honor the same types of wage increases with our non-union members as we do for our union members. Keep in mind, our non-union members do not have the right to negotiate. So we believe that it's the most fair and equitable way to maintain their service, and they do a great job by providing the same wage increases as we do for those individuals that have the opportunity to bargain their wage increases.
Any other discussion? Yes.
So my concern with that is if that is supposed to be equitable for the non-contract, non-union employees, last year the town manager got approved for a 9.8% raise, and this year it's going to be a 5.41%. Last year, the HR director, executive assistant was approved for a 3.2% raise, when everyone else, it looks like from the unions, was receiving 2.4%, and this year is getting an additional 5.52%.
Anybody want to address
Mr.
that?
Moderator?
Mr. Flaherty, you want to address that?
The part of these increases are due to the re-evaluation or repositioning of the compensation plan. This is done on a regular basis, and this year, the job descriptions changed, and people were moved within ranges, and that's what accounts for some of these. There is also in these lines, there's a $6,000 expense that was changed due to some DOI requirement, if I'm right on that, Mr. Accountant. So, if that answers your question, I don't know.
So the $6,000 expense, is that an additional salary increase for the two?
No.
It used to be an expense, it's just moved. The deck share was moved from one account to another account, from expense to...
Can you hear?
I can, yes.
All right.
But my concern is with the wages that were held. It's just last year there was a 9.8%, which one would expect to be a re-eval then, but now to have an additional 5.4, or last year with the 3.2, an additional 5.2. Were we not prepared last year when we did the re-eval of a description, a job description?
This is something that was done just this year, okay? As far as one of those other increases, particularly with respect to the town manager, that's a contractual increase. The selectmen had entered into that agreement.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing, is that...
And if that contract is not honored, the town finds themselves in a breach of contract. And, anyone on a contract that's not funded, the town is in a breach of contract, and you really don't want to be there because you're going to lose.
So I'd like to ask the Board of Selectmen or the town manager if you could speak to if it is a contractual thing, to be specific about that. I think that might help answer the question.
Well, the chairman point, he's exactly correct. So just so it's clear, I worked with the Board of Selectmen last year and negotiated an extension to my existing contract. So last year was the first year of my second contract here with the town of Upton. So that's why there was the increase that you're suggesting. And then again, this year, as the chairman pointed out, there are other contractual obligations that are built within that contract that are now written into this budget that's presented before you this evening.
Thanks. Another question, yes.
Since pandemics don't happen all the time, has anyone gone back to the unions to suggest that they renegotiate if we're in the fall in a situation where we can't afford this, and to just hold off to the fall and make it retroactive if we can?
That's a good general question.
Well, no, it's a great question. So the short answer to that is no, we haven't had that conversation. And it goes back to what I had suggested earlier, that the town is not, we spend a lot of time watching what other communities are doing in the cuts that they're making. That does not apply to the town of Upton. Going back to my presentation, we have a strong financial condition, right? We only 4% is the unknown. The only thing we don't know is what the state revenue is going to bring. So 4% of our budget is the unknown. The other 96%, somewhere in that ballpark, we have a good sense of what those revenues are going to be. So therefore, like I suggested earlier, once we know what the state revenues are, this budget as presented gives us flexibility to be able to make those cuts if and when necessary.
On the way in, someone had mentioned that Upton was among one of the highest hit with unemployment. And when unemployment runs out, we can say we're going to get this in property taxes, and it's not going to happen if people don't have the money. Their houses are up for sale and they don't sell. That leaves the town in a hole. So planning what the state is doing isn't enough. You have to look at what's happening to the citizens of the town. As I mentioned, if you listen to the business news, some companies are cutting salaries by 20% to avoid layoffs. Others are laying off. And we expect bigger layoffs once all of the federal funding ends.
And Mr. Kozlowski, I agree with you. If we're at a position where we're talking about laying off firefighters, we're talking about laying off police officers, absolutely, we need to sit down and think about what's that going to mean to our core services. But we're not there yet. Just other towns, I'm giving you an example. Plymouth is a great example, right? They built a town hall, $40 million town hall. How are they funding that? They're using meals tax to fund their $40 million annual debt service. They have a problem. They need to start thinking about layoffs because they know the meals tax is coming in. They don't know how they're going to pay a $40 million debt service. We're not in the same position as other towns, which is why you see the vast majority. I did a survey this past 24 hours, and what I realized is that the vast majority of the communities in Massachusetts that I surveyed, over 90% of them are holding their town meetings in June because they're in a different position. Now, the other ones that are doing 112 budgets and holding off, they're in different positions. Plymouth would be one of them. Shrewsbury's another one. Shrewsbury's a huge commercial corridor. They're doing a 112 budget. So the communities, Northridge is having a town meeting tonight, the communities that understand their budget and understand what they can afford and what they can't afford are moving forward with their budget process. FY22 is a different story. I am with you. We don't know what's going to happen on FY22. We don't know what's going to happen at the state level, and we don't know what's going to happen at the local level. But we do know our local receipts are coming in. The local taxes were due on June 30th, and from the Treasurer Collector's Office, from what we understand, those are coming in strong as they always have. So we don't have any nervousness or concern that our local receipts are going to fall off and our tax income is going to fall off.
Well, the extra $600 a week is ending on June 30th. I would ask the people of the town, the employees of the town, would you rather go without a raise or would you rather see one of the people near you be laid off? And that's my concern. I don't want to see layoffs, especially in fire and police.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on this specific one? Yes.
Yes, Mike Marchand, 21 Warren Street. I have a series of questions. I really wanted to ask them the other night on the online finance committee meeting, but in the very beginning of the meeting, it was mentioned by the chairman that we couldn't ask those questions, that we weren't going to get into individuals, the percentage of raises or anything like that. So I was on phone, I couldn't type in the questions. So I felt that I couldn't ask by phone because I couldn't type in the questions that you guys were seeing. But a lot of these questions could have been answered. I think in this town what is happening is you're seeing a lot of pretty good sized raises in here in a period of year. No matter how you guys come up with, you're handing them out. And you got a lot of people here, the taxpayers, They're either getting nothing or getting cut. So that's why people want to ask what about the justification for these raises. I personally believe that that should be done before this meeting, so those questions are answered. I have a question under the Board of Selectmen.
Because where we are right now, Board of Selectmen wages, that's what we're on.
So the town planner, is that under Board of Selectmen?
Yes, it is.
Okay, the town planner's position, 100% increase, we're hiring a town planner. Now, I understand from listening to Derek, he explained it very well, they were sharing the town planner with another town. I have a problem with recall is, if the town of Upton's the host, we gotta pay the juice. And the juice is, that big number that Derek just told you about, is the pensions and the retirement. I got a concern if the salary of this agent is $80,000, that we're gonna get stuck with the juice for this employee, and if we're sharing this person with Northbridge, I believe they should be paying a higher percentage, and this is a question I wanted to ask the other night of that employee. So, or is this employee just a contract employee, and we don't pay anything? And I think there's a couple other positions, maybe the Conservation Commission agent, are these employees of the town that we're paying the benefits for.
Okay, Mr. Ribisi?
Sure, happy. Great questions, Mike. So let me start by the town planner. So the town planner is a new position. As you all know, the town meeting over the last 2 years really have supported the redevelopment, revitalization of the town center. And the votes have supported that notion. And so there's been lengthy discussions, I would say, over the past 18 months about trying to bring in a professional town planner to help move that ball down the field, to help with the commercial expansion that everyone wants to see in this community, or at least they said they want, because they want to limit their own personal property tax. And so a town planner will be working with the Economic Development Committee and providing professional support, be working with the planning board and providing technical support to the planning board if necessary, helping them with plan reviews, providing recommendations as they do their site plan reviews, and then working with the ZBA, again, providing technical support. Keep in mind, all of our committee members are volunteers, right? I think we're fortunate that many of our committee members, both planning board and ZBA, have been doing this for decades and they have institutional knowledge. But, you know, having a professional town planner is only going to support them in their work as they represent the best interests of the community. And so the town planner is a part-time position. But let me stop by saying that we're waiting to see what happens with state aid, right? That's what we keep talking about. We have a hiring freeze on. We implemented a hiring freeze back in March. We implemented a spending freeze back in March because we don't know what the next 2, 3, maybe 6 months will bring. So this town planner position, although presented, because we presented this budget back in January, and we still found value in presenting this position tonight in June, is on freeze. This position is not going to be hired until we feel like we are in a sound fiscal condition that we can restart the hiring process. The only positions that will be hired are primarily those positions that we need in public safety because, you know, they respond to all of our 911 calls for service. So other than that, everything else has been put on hold. As far as sharing goes, I have had conversations with the town administrator in Boylston. They were also in the process during the spring to put monies aside to hire a part-time town planner. The goal would be, Mike, to leverage both towns' dollars and then bring somebody on full-time for professional support. Any benefits would have to be shared 50-50 between both towns. And that's the same, you quickly referenced the conservation agent. The conservation agent is the same. I know, I think that has already been a hold, but I'll talk about it now. We share the conservation agent 50-50 with the town of Northbridge. 30-hour-a-week position. It went from 19.5 to 30 hours a week. You'll see on the revenue side of this year's budget, there's approximately $23,500 that's contributed by the town of Northbridge to help subsidize the cost of our our conservation agent.
So I don't mean to take up the time, but so it's clear then that any of the expenses, and that includes what I call the juice or the benefits package, is equally shared between the two communities.
That's absolutely correct, Mike. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
The other last thing was, you mentioned the contractual obligations and trying to mirror, but one of those ones that don't get represented. Right? The statement you made makes me think that I'm going to get the same raises as my full-time firefighters again. Is that going to be for all my call firefighter EMTs also?
So the call department is different. Again, you'll certainly get the call increase like your career staff that you work with. The only difference with the call side is they don't have a step program like their brothers on the career side. So until a step program would be developed, then yes, I would say that the call side would fall very similar in line with the career side. But again, that step program is not in place, unlike the career side.
So it's not really an accurate, well, I mean, not picking on you, but basically stating that the non-contractual employees do not get mirror raises of the contractual employees. Is that a fair statement?
Can you repeat that one more time?
The non-contractual employees, the unrepresented municipal employees in the town, don't get the mirror of the raises that are out there.
I would say all of our employees have different step programs. So all of our employees get the same COLA. That goes for contractual, non-contractual. But the step program itself is negotiated by each union.
So basically, the bigger raises.
It's not apples to apples.
So the bigger raises that we're seeing here, right, we're excluded from that. Like if you did for instance, if the fire, I'm not up to what the recent contract was, but if the fire contract got a 4% raise this year and a 2% raise next year and a 2%, the non-contractual people would not be getting that.
If they got a 4% COLA, if they received a 4% COLA, they would the non-contract call staff would also receive a 4% COLA. Again, I want to be clear, there's a difference between COLA, cost of living increase, versus the STEP program.
Okay? So, okay, good. So, any other questions on this? And now we need to know. Flaherty?
Mr. Moderator, we're talking about
Selectmen wages.
281, 224. Mr. Moderator, I move we raise and appropriate $281,224 for the purposes of selectmen wages.
Second? Move and seconded. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, hold up the green card. All those opposed, hold up the red card. Okay, the motion carries by a majority. Next hold is on treasurer collector, which is on page 16. Right? Page 16, treasurer collector wages was held. Ma'am, if you could speak to that, please.
All right, so my concern with that goes along with one of the articles
Yep.
later on, one of the warrants later on. There's an increase in that job position, and there's also a later on article that says it's now going to go from elected to then being appointed.
Right. And that will be dealt with later on. Right.
So I have a concern with the additional increase.
Okay, great. Mr. Watt.
I'm Ken Glowacki, treasurer collector, at least for the next 7 days. The reason that my wages didn't change, in the future it will change. That was for the salary. That's me. The wages were for my employees, and that was almost 100% due to increase in number of hours. We had one step change for one of the people. Everything else was because of increased hours. Every time we do these electronic payments that come on through the bank and all that, it's much more convenient, obviously, for you citizens, but it does create a much bigger burden for us to keep track of all that money, as well as some of the debit cards that we have with people that are in different departments. So that person, and one person in particular, got a big step increase and added hours. Other than that, there was no change from what the COLA was.
Okay?
Mr. Moderator, if I could add to that. At the last special town meeting, both the one this year and I believe the one a year ago, respect the fall town meeting, $9,000, I think it was $9,000 was added to it. So that, I'm not sure that number shows. So if when you,
He's right on top.
from the appropriation the year before, there was a subsequent appropriation at the special town meeting, which would count for this, the larger percentage.
So I have a question with regards to that. So last year, there was a 32% increase. Is that what you're talking about for the department specialist?
Yes, that was the hours were increased as well. And then there was a deficiency in the salary line account, which was subsidized or added to, let me put it this way, there was a supplemental appropriation at the fall town meeting to cover that.
Okay?
So if you compare the appropriation for the annual town meeting now versus the annual town meeting a year ago, you have to add the supplemental appropriation of the last year's.
So there was an
make up the
extra amount at
difference.
the fall town meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I don't know if that helps answer the question.
Yeah, so it looks odd in that it's about 50% pay increase over 2 years.
Yes. And, well, there were changes in the job description, additional duties and additional hours involved in it too.
Okay?
It's not an apples to apples thing.
Okay, thank you. So, do you have a number, unless there are any more questions? Okay, need a number.
Number is,
Page 16.
I'm not running the same one that you are. Mr. Moderator, that's the amount of money. I move we raise and appropriate $72,164 for the purpose of treasurer collector wages.
Second? Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise the green card. All opposed, raise the red card. The motion carries by majority. Next is personnel. Personnel committee expense was held, $1,200.
I have a question on the increase of 166.67%.
Okay. Someone answer that?
So the breakdown, this is to support the personnel committee. The breakdown on expenses is that there was an additional $200 applied to this line item for membership of the Mass Municipal Personnel Association, and then an additional $500 for personnel board members who request to go to the trainings offered by the state to understand collective bargaining, other personnel matters.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none? You can make the motion too if you want to put that money in, but you don't have to. That's fine.
Where is it?
Page 16.
Mr. Moderator, I move we town raise and appropriate $1,200 for the purpose of personnel.
Second? Second. Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, hold up the green card. Opposed, no. Hold up the red card. Motion carries by majority. Okay, next hold was clerk, town clerk wages. Yes, question? Comment?
Again, it's going to be dealing with the increase, percentage increase.
Yep.
I assistant town clerk went up by 95.62%.
Yep.
Kelly McCoworth, Town Clerk. So for the last couple of years, Denise, and I usually don't like to use a name, but my assistant town clerk also works 10 hours for the, 15 hours for the planning board and 10 hours for the conservation. So she's in my office 35 hours a week, or in the town hall 35 hours a week. And we've been finding over the last couple of years, I actually asked for this increase last year and it wasn't granted, so I asked for it again this year. We're finding more and more that she's needed on the town clerk side. We have automatic voter registration that's happening in the town clerk's office where, only 10 hours a week she uses all that time to just keep the data entry up and going. I will attest, especially the last 40 days with the town election that we had, I mailed out 455 or 470 absentee ballots, and I pretty much did that on my own. And with what's coming up in the fall, I really need more hours for her. So I respectfully request the town meeting to approve her extra hours to work for me in the town clerk's office, and then we would work on what we would do about her conservation hours with someone else.
Okay. Anything else?
So this would be a raise increase going forward, I'm assuming? And it wouldn't just be relevant for this year due to...
Correct, because we are finding that she's spending more time working in the clerk's office than she is in the other departments, and it's at this point it's just time to cut the cord and pay her for working for the clerk. So what will happen in the future is once the hiring freeze is over, or we can find someone to do the conservation, her hours will remain 20 hours for the town clerk, 15 hours for the planning board, and then the conservation would remain the same.
So would the money be reallocated to the different departments? Or is it just the town clerk's department where she's going to be getting a 95% increase and still be keeping the same pay for all the other jobs she holds?
She will no longer be doing conservation, if that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, someone give us a number.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town raise and appropriate $161,057 for the purposes of town clerk wages.
Okay, second. Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, hold up the green card. Opposed, no. Red card. Okay, motion carries by majority. Thank you. Next held item. Conservation Commission clerk wages. Yes, question.
I think those were answered due to the first few.
Sure,
already covered.
I understand. Yep, thank you. So if there's no more questions, we have a number.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town raise and appropriate $44,525 for the purposes of the Conservation Commission wages. Clerk
Second. Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by holding the green card up. Opposed, hold the red card up. Motion carries by majority. Next one is police training was held. That's $18,000. So do you want to ask a question and then we'll go from there?
Yes, I'm wondering what the training entails due to the current situation. It seems like an awful lot of police departments have undergone additional training or will be undergoing additional training.
Sure, thank you.
Sure, the increase of $2,000 is for training fees for courses. So over the last year, I've lost my entire command staff, lieutenant and sergeants, to retirement. Great for them, not so great for me. So the additional money is for command level training for the people taking their place, and also it costs approximately $3,000 in tuition to send somebody to the academy. It's for new hires as well.
Okay. Any other questions about police training?
So is there going to be any additional training due to current events?
So part of, I'm guessing that Our in-service training will change a little bit, but I can tell you over the last few years, we have done the type of training I'm assuming you're thinking of, bias-based policing, that type of training we've been doing for several years here in the Commonwealth, which is different than other places in the country.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Flores?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town raise and appropriate $18,000 for the purposes of police training.
Second? Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, hold up the green card. All those opposed, hold up a red card. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next held was Fire EMS Department expense.
Again, this relates to an article later on, and I'm wondering if we could possibly include as line items going forward, renewing or replacing PPE as well as upkeep of portable radios, instead of having them as an article or articles every year.
Okay, that's a good point. What? Oh, okay. It comes from a different funding source, the accountant says, so that's why they might not be able to do what you're suggesting, even though it sounds like a great idea. Chief?
Sure, thank you. Through you, Mr. Moderator. The reason there's been an increase in that particular line item is there was some adjustments within the VADAR system to align the VADAR terminology better with how we're actually spending the monies in our budgets. So there was a $4,000 adjustment from one side of the last year's budget, which was the forest fire expense that used to sit under DPW. So we moved it into expenses to be more in line with the fire EMS budget. So that's a $4,000 increase. And then the $5,000 increase or ask was to start replacing our mobile radio equipment to help offset that big ask that you, again, have already referenced here tonight of $159,000 for portable radios. If we can do smaller increments every year, I think that's more easily palatable to the public versus asking big dollars every few years. I don't think that's the right way to do business if we can do it that way. So that's why that particular line item went up.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Flaherty?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town raise and appropriate $38,150 for the purposes of fire EMS expenses.
Second? Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying green card up in the air. Thank you. Opposed, red card up in the air. Thank you. Unanimous. I knew I was going to do this tonight. Okay. Next, code enforcement expenses. Similar type of question, I assume?
Similar thing.
That's
yes.
fine, yep.
56% increase.
Yep.
Consolidation for mileage. If you look at the next line, it's negative 100. If you look at the line above it, it's a negative 100. So what we did was just consolidate those three accounts.
You see that? Line above, the line below went down to zero, so they put them all together in one place.
Same as last year. If you look at it as total expenses, I'm Pat Rose, by the way, your building commissioner. Total expense hasn't
I just
changed
got,
at all.
wow, all of a sudden, go ahead, Mr.
The number hasn't changed at all. It's confusing, yes. We took all our total expenses, mileage, everything that happens in the office or whatever, and we put it under the total expense. As you can see, if you go down to 2020's total expenses, the exact same number. So we haven't increased it now 1 cent.
Yes, it's actually right about the same. So,
Right.
Okay, great. Beautiful. I need a number.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
I move the town raise and appropriate $23,500 for the purposes of code enforcement expenses.
Second? Moved and second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor hold the green card up. All opposed hold the red card up. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Is that it, or we got some more? A couple more. DPW wages.
General expense, I believe?
That's on page 25. I'm sorry.
24?
Yeah, 487, 713 is the number, right? You held that, correct? DPW wages?
Okay. I also had another one. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yes, again, 4.48%.
Yeah, so why the increase? DPW director, sir?
I'm sorry, which line are you talking about increasing?
The wages. That's her question. Why the increase of 4.48? DPW wages, 487, 713 is...
Yes, sir, I understand now. So, as the town manager illustrated before, we have a contractual agreement with the unions for DPW, and within the COLA, there is also step increases, and some of those individuals received step increases after being here for so many years, and it increases their salary.
More specifically, department specialist went up 104%.
So this is a position that was originally a one-person position 2 years ago. Last year, we added a part-time clerical to that position, and the intent was it to be 50% water and 50% sewer, and then the other position to be 100% DPW to handle all of the administrative duties associated with the TIP program, all the capital projects, and the rest of DPW. So this year, we corrected the salaries, so it's a reallocation of positions, not an increase in positions.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Yeah. Anything else? No, Mr. Flaherty?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town raise and appropriate $487,713 for the purpose of DPW wages.
Second? Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise the green card. All those opposed, raise the red card. Okay, motion carries unanimously. And then, DPW consultant, same type of question, I assume?
Yes.
Yes?
This line item is originally $11,000, if I'm understanding the right, yes. Okay, so we have a line item that DPW uses from time to time. For example, we just used it this year quite frequently, where we had some residents who felt as though we had some intersections that probably should have 3 or 4-way stop signs. Mass General law requires us to have a traffic study done in order to conclude whether or not it's legal to make that recommendation to the Board of Selectmen so they can act. These studies average pretty close to $4,000 a piece. At 11 grand, if we had, and I think we did 2 last year, if we have just 3 traffic studies in 1 year, it would pretty much deplete the account. In addition to that, with the TIP project and other land acquisitions going on, we have a need from time to time to clarify boundaries within town, which means we have to hire professional land surveyors. So $11,000 doesn't go a long way, and I asked for a $4,000 increase.
Okay. Anything else? Great, thank you. Flaherty, number?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town raise and appropriate $15,000 for purposes of DPW consultant.
Second? Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, hold up the green card. Opposed, hold up the red card. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Next one. Board of Health wages, which is on page 29. Okay, go ahead.
Same thing, percentage increase, please.
Yep. Increase. Someone from the Board of Health want to address that. Go ahead.
I can answer that. So that line item actually covers more than one. There's 2 different salaries in there, and not only does it have the cost of living increase and the step increase, but I'm always there more than the 35 hours, just like all the rest of the town clerks and everybody else that's there. And I'm just requesting that I start getting paid for the 40 hours. So that's an additional 5 hours a week. So it looks like more than it probably should be.
So it's not a pay increase of 14%, it's
Right,
more hours for the
exactly.
job.
There's more hours, and it's the cost of living and step increase.
Okay,
So it's an additional hours, yes.
good, thank you. And the gentleman behind you, yep. You want the mic?
Wait a minute.
You good?
Mr. Moderator, one of the reasons for this was the extended hours. By law, we are required to pay an employee for every hour worked. But for years now, we've had to tell our employee, go home. The fact is, there was too much work for the few 35 hours he was working. We needed 40.
Great, no problem, thank you, yep, great. Anything else? Got a number? Mr. Flaherty.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town raise and appropriate $69,046 for the purposes of Board of Health wages.
For second? Moving to second, any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, hold up the green card. All opposed, hold up the red card. Motion carries unanimously. Council on Aging, page 30, next page. Same question or something different?
Same question.
Same question, no problem. Council on Aging, people here?
So with all the other, as the other departments, the only increases were the COLA and then the step that was put in place, so just the regular increases, everybody remains at the same hours and staffing.
Thank you. Anything else? You all set? Okay, great. Someone want to give us a number?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town raise and appropriate $165,589 for the purposes of Council on Aging wages.
Make that 98.
598, yes.
Okay, no problem. Second. Move to second. Any other discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, hold up the green card. All those opposed, hold the red card. Motion carries by majority. Let's see. Is that it?
I think there's one more.
Maybe. Let's see. I don't know. I might have missed one.
Did I hold library or no?
I don't think
No?
so.
Okay.
Okay. Great. All set? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. So, we're through with the budget. I do just want to make one quick question, and I know sometimes when we do this process, sometimes it takes 10 minutes, sometimes it takes a half hour. I know sometimes people wonder why we go through this process of individualizing this. Well, the reason why is because when you live in a small town, people need to look at the budget. People need to be prepared to deal with the questions. It's all about checks and balances. So, thank you for going through this process. We do it once a year, and I think it's worthwhile to still do that. And thank you, department heads and everybody, for having answers to the questions. That's a good job. So, it's wonderful. Okay, move on. Article. Oh, we had a whole bunch of consent calendar stuff. We've done 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. We're up to Article 9. I move the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $562,380 to be used for the construction and improvement of town roads to supplement those provided for under Chapter 90 program. Need FinCom recommendation and Capital Budget Committee recommendation after it's been seconded. Second. FinCom recommendation?
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
Capital budget? Favorable action by the capital budget, okay. Any discussion on this? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, hold up the green cards. All opposed, hold up the red cards. Motion carries unanimously. Article 12C. 12C. Move the town vote to transfer up to $35,000 from the Community Preservation Undesignated Fund balance to fund 50% of the design and engineering of Leland Field per the concept outlined in the Recreation Master Plan. Again, second?
Second.
FinCom recommendation?
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
Capital budget? Okay, any discussion? How about the Community Preservation Fund? Do you guys have a recommendation on this? Favorable, great, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Green card. Thank you. Opposed, red card. Okay, passes by a majority. Sorry, I know I'll do that again tonight, too. Article 12D. I move the town vote to transfer the sum of $7,500 from the Community Preservation Act Historic Preservation Reserve account to fund the repair of the slate roof and the painting of the ceiling of the historic storage shed at Maplewood Cemetery. Second. FinCom recommendation.
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
Capital Budget Committee? No recommendation? Sorry about that. Oh, it's CPC. Sorry about that. Community, right. As you'll notice, they came out with a number of 7,500. That's 2,500 less than what's on the board. So thank you for getting that number even lower. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, hold up the green card. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a question?
Yes.
Pardon me. Go ahead.
Mike Marchand, 21 Warren Street. Is that for the one on Maple Ave?
Yeah.
Do we own that? So, okay.
It's a historic building and it's owned by the Maplewood Cemetery Commission or whatever it's called. Okay, so that's it. Okay, sorry that I got ahead of that. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor, green card. All those opposed, red card. Motion carries by a majority. Okay, next one is Article 15, correct? I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $10,000 for the use of the Board of Assessors to contract a utility appraiser. Second?
Second.
FinCom recommendation.
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
Is there anybody from the Board of Assessors, if necessary, to speak on this, or are there any questions? If not, then all those in favor, raise the green card. All those opposed, raise the red card. Motion carries unanimously. The next one is Article 16. I move the town vote to amend Section 6.1 of the zoning bylaws, common driveways, as printed in the warrant articles under Article 16. And this requires a 2/3 majority vote. Is there a second?
Second.
Let's see. Zoning board, do you want to talk about this, or planning board, or go ahead.
Gary Bohan, 17 Juniper Road, Planning Board Chair. Planning Board recommends favorable action.
Okay, great. Would you want to just explain real quick what we got here, and then we'll see if there's any questions?
Yeah, this refers to common driveways, which would basically be one driveway serving more than one house. And we were asked by the town manager to take a look and come to find out this was a by-use, or is a by-use right now, which means that you normally wouldn't have to go before the planning board. Come to find out, in talking with Central Mass Regional Planning, that most communities are doing this by special permit, and after consulting with Central Mass, we thought it would be in the town's best interest to follow suit.
Okay, great. Any questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, hold up the green cards. All those opposed, hold up the red cards. Okay, it passes by unanimous, which means it's greater than 2/3 majority. Thank you. Okay, we've got Article 18. Move the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $159,000 to purchase portable radio equipment, including all expenses incidental and related. Second? Second. FinCom recommendation?
Favorable action.
Capital Budget Committee? Favorable action. Favorable action. Okay, who's got the motion for this, by the way? Which department is it? Fire Department. Fire Department? Okay, fine. So, any questions about this or not? If not, then we're all set. Okay, all those in favor, hold up the green card. All opposed, hold up the red card. It passes unanimously. Okay, Article 19. Move the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $11,070 to purchase 3 sets of personal protective firefighter gear, also known as PPE, including all incidental and related expenses. Second? Second. FinCom recommendation?
Favorable action.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, hold up the green cards. All those opposed, hold up the red cards. Okay, passes unanimously. Okay, Article 20. Should town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $25,000 to fund the repair and replacement of the heating and HVAC systems at the fire station and all incidental and related costs. Second? Move and seconded, FinCom recommendation.
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
Capital budget? Favorable action. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, hold up the green cards. Opposed, hold up the red cards. Passes unanimously. Okay. Article 25, right? 22. Oh, sorry, yep. I move the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $10,000 to fund the purchase of a used replacement forklift to the DPW Highway Division, including all expenses incidental and related. Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. FinCom recommendation.
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
Any discussion? Mr. Brochus? No, okay, sorry, okay. It just...
You didn't raise your hand, Jim.
Any discussion? I guess there's no discussion. All right. All those in favor, hold up the green card. All those opposed, hold up the red card. Okay, motion carries unanimously. 25. I move the town vote transfer from free cash a sum of $30,000 to fund the purchase of a replacement turf truck for the DPW Parks, Forestry, Cemetery Division, including all expenses incidental and related. Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. FinCom recommendation.
Favorable action, Mr.
Favorable
Moderator.
action. Any discussion? Yes, sir. Yeah, could you go to the mic, please? Thank you. And your brother's wiping that off for you, sir. Good brother.
Mike Marchand, 21 Warren Street. Is this thing being replaced, or we just add another one to the fleet?
Okay.
This is a replacement mic for one that we have that caught on fire last year.
Okay, sure.
So, you might have been there, but maybe you put it out. I don't know. Okay. Any other discussion? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor, hold up the green cards. All those opposed, hold up the red cards. Motion carries unanimously. 26. I move the town vote to transfer from water enterprise retained earnings a sum of $280,000 for the purpose of funding the water division's capital improvement program, including all expenses incidental and related. Second? Second. Move to second. FinCom.
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
Capital budget. Okay. Any discussion? Anybody? Sure. Go to the mic, please.
Scott Broder, 165 North Street, and my concern is with the language of this, the dollar amount of 280 or any other sum. That kind of feels like we're signing off on a blank check there.
Oh, wait a minute. I think the actual motion is for $280,000. The article says or any other sum, but the actual motion is $280,000.
Just so long as we're not, I mean, that's my only problem is if we're signing off on a blank check.
That's right. So, actually, though, this is a good question because if you notice, all the articles that you have in front of you, it says a few different funding sources. It gives a number, but it always says or any other sum to give us the flexibility of what we need. But the motion itself will be very specific about the funding source and about the amount of money. So that's why this is a specific number and not on the article, which is or some other number. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, hold up the green cards. All those opposed, hold up the red cards. Motion carries unanimously. Moving up to 27. Okay. All righty, Article 27. I move the town vote to transfer from wastewater enterprise retained earnings the sum of $450,000 for the purpose of funding the wastewater division's capital improvement program, including all expenses incidental and related. Second?
Second.
Okay. FinCom recommendation.
Favorable action.
CBC recommendation. Capital Budget Committee? Thank you. Any discussion? Am I done? No.
on the screen, but...
Oh, you know what? She walked away, no one moved up to 27.
I don't know how to do it.
That's all right. Well, okay. Article 27 is actually just like Article 26, but it deals with the wastewater instead of the actual water. But if Madam Town Clerk can move it up to 27, there we go. So that's the motion there. Okay. So, wait a minute. Yeah, no, that's right, that's 27. That's the article, but the actual motion has $450,000. Okay?
Oh, I got it.
There we go. The motion. Okay? So, 450 is the number. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, hold the green card. All those opposed, hold the red card. Carries unanimously. 28. Okay, give me a minute. So, I move the town vote to appropriate the amount of $292,796.67, being the unexpected balance of proceeds of the sale of bonds issued pursuant to a vote of the town duly adopted at the annual town meeting on May 7, 2009, Article 32, to finance the water main replacement along Route 140, and pursuant to a vote of the town duly adopted at the annual town meeting on May 10, 2012, Article 10, to finance the construction of a well field at the third water source located at 172 West River Street, related pumping station, and the West River water main replacement and installation of the SCADA system at all water and wastewater facilities, which projects, thank you, are now complete and for which no further liability remains, for the purpose of obtaining the costs of miscellaneous water capital projects work within the town that may be financed through the issuance of debt under Chapter 44 of General Laws for a period at least equal to that relative to the completed projects above, including the payment of any and all costs incidental and related thereto pursuant to Section 20 of Chapter 44 of the General Laws. Yes. Thank you. 293,796.67. Correct. Thank you very much. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. FinCom recommendation.
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
This does require a 2/3 vote. Now, I do want somebody to do a quick explanation of the fact that, if you don't mind me saying, Town Council, it's a lot of legalese stuff here. So if somebody can quickly explain what this motion is and why we're doing it. You know what I mean?
Happy to explain this. So this is, as you can read here, there were two articles that were voted on and approved by town meeting in the past. Those articles, there's a balance remaining from water projects that are now complete. So what we're asking for permission tonight is to move the balance of those articles, so dissolve those two articles and move them over to the water enterprise account so that those dollars can be used for future water expenses and projects.
Great, okay, thank you very much. Good. So, any discussion? Okay, it requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor, hold up the green card. All those opposed, hold up the red card. Passes unanimously, 2/3 unanimous. Okay. Article 29. I move the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $13,000 for the purpose of purchasing software for tracking personal time, attendance, vacation time, and sick time, including all expenses incidental and related. Second?
Second.
FinCom recommendation?
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, hold up the green card. All those opposed, hold up the red card. Okay, unanimous. It was not unanimous, sorry about that. By majority, thank you.
Third time you did that, but that's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I saw a lot of green go up, but thank you for reminding me of that. Article 30 is next. I move the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to submit a home rule petition to the general court for special legislation changing the position of treasurer collector from elected to appointed, as printed in the warrant article under Article 30, and to authorize the general court to make clerical or editorial changes of form only to the bill, unless the Board of Selectmen approve amendments to the bill before enactment by the general court. And provided further that the Board of Selectmen is hereby authorized to approve amendments which shall be within the scope of the general public objectives of this petition. Second?
Second.
Okay, so this is the article about making the treasurer collector go from elected to appointed. That's what this is. Any comment or discussion?
Yeah.
Treasurer collector? Either one.
So I know, you probably deserve a explanation, because in the past I have made arguments to do exactly the opposite. And just so you know, even though I'm leaving in 7 days, there are no deals, no arm twisting or anything like that. This is something I'm volunteering because I think some of the circumstances have changed from the past. In particular, first of all, I have much more confidence in the group of leadership that we have here, as well as the town manager that I have in the past. And that makes a big difference. But the other consequence that I was really worried about was, if this remains elected, I know for a fact that I'll have more than one person within my department running for the same position. And the turmoil that would cause, it would cause a breakdown in the department, and I really think it would have hurt the way we would function. And so that's my recommendation now. And as I said, it was, you're going to be giving up a little bit of independence. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But I think the consequences are more important, that the department functions as a single unit and continues their good work. Thank you.
Mr. Simons.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, Mr. Treasurer Collector. We have a proclamation for the outgoing Treasurer Collector, and I'll read it. Whereas Kenneth Glowacki was elected Treasurer Collector on May 12, 1997, where he has served for 23 years, and whereas during his years of dedicated service as Treasurer Collector, he has served on various committees such as the Trust Fund Committee and Capital Budget Committee, where he has served as chairperson, and has always kept the welfare of the residents of Upton first and foremost in his deliberations. And whereas Mr. Glowacki's daily presence will be deeply missed by his co-workers in the Treasurer Collector's office, who have benefited from his knowledge, his leadership, and maybe most importantly, his calmness in the face of all the challenges and changes that municipal government has been presented with over the past 2 decades. And whereas Mr. Glowacki has been a key asset to the town finance team in budget preparation and fiscal ownership, where his institutional knowledge has proved invaluable time and time again. And whereas Mr. Glowacki is celebrating his retirement on June 30th, 2020, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Selectmen wishes to recognize Kenneth Glowacki's unwavering support of the Upton community and express our deep appreciation for his good work that he has provided each year to the town of Upton and its residents. Be it further resolved that the Board of Selectmen hereby honors and expresses its most sincere appreciation to Kenneth Glowacki for his years of dedication and service to the town of Upton and its citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's very nice of you to do this. It's been an honor working for all of you citizens, and thank you for your support and this great honor. Thank you.
So, I pardon that brief interruption in the middle of the motion, but we're back to the motion. Thank you. And great job, Ken. Good work. All right, Smash.
Mike Marchand, 21 Warren Street. I myself would like to express my appreciation for Ken for all he is. I got a couple of things. I'd like to know when Ken decided to retire and when the town of Upton was notified of that.
Okay. When was the notice? I don't know what that has to, what does that have to do with the motion though?
Because I believe that if the announcement of he was planning to retire prior to the election, why wasn't it on the ballot? Why wasn't it put on when we still had an elected position? Who made that decision? Not to put it on the ballot?
Okay. It looks like Madam Town Clerk can answer.
So Ken submitted his letter of resignation. I'm not quite sure what the date is, but Ken is only fulfilling 2 years out of his last term, so it wouldn't have been on the ballot anyways, because he still has another year of his term. He's technically retiring 2 years out of the 3-year term. So that's why it wasn't on the ballot, because the term was not up.
Okay, that answers that question then.
Okay.
The second question is I live in a small town of Upton and do what I do in this town because I like elected people. I'm not going to get into the debate of qualified people or not qualified people because you can go on and on about that, but that's one of the main reasons why I'm here. I like this type of format. I would never support town meeting members, and I like being able to elect people. And with the type of government, not that I don't believe in the town manager, and I love Derek and what he does, but since we've gone to a town manager type of government, we've slowly eroded each and every little position, and they've gone to appointed versus elected. And that's where slowly is how a town really loses control. So again, I don't want to debate appointed or elected. I mean, the qualifications part of it, but I like still being able to elect people.
Okay. Any other discussion on this motion? I think we have some coming down, yep.
I do have a question. I do believe we had 2 positions open for the Cemetery Commission on our ballot, and that one of those positions was actually not up to expire until next year.
So what does that have to do with the motion with regard to appointing or
It was
election?
just stated that his term had not expired, therefore it was not going onto the ballot.
I can talk to you about that offline.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's the same analogy, but you could just try to, if you can, explain real quickly what the situation is.
I can review my records and I'll give you a call on that, Shelley. Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, anything else regarding this motion? So, yes,
I really would like to hear from the Board of Selectmen. We elect you guys. I'd like to have your opinion from all 3 of you.
I was just going to grab the mic.
okay.
So thank you. It's important for folks to recognize that one of the most important and the primary reasons for making a change like this, the board, you elect us. We're here to serve you. You've elected the treasurer collector in the past. They're there to serve. We're all here to help do the best we can for everybody that's living in the community and the residents of Upton. That said, the reason that the recommendation is being made to switch this position from elected to appointed is the idea that the qualifications required to do this job. Over the years, this job's gotten more and more technical. You need to have a financial background. You need to have a municipal governing background. And Our concern is that if we limit our ability to a candidate pool of folks within the town of Upton, that we're going to get very little interest and end up with somebody in the position that isn't able to perform to the level that the town deserves. And you can see that by looking at all of the empty slots, any of you that voted in the most recent election. The only position where there was a contested election was for selectmen. There were many, many empty spaces, many, many empty slots. So that's just an indication of the level of challenge we have in trying to staff the various positions on these boards and committees and get people involved in local government. I wish it was different. I wish it was better. I wish we had a broader candidate pool in town. I wish we could have all these positions be elected. I think that's a far better choice, to let the people vote. Unfortunately, this is a job that's very important and can be very challenging and difficult to do. So we're asking for your support to transition this position from elected to appointed.
Thank you. I'm Steve Metellian. I, on the other hand, on the contrary, I actually like the position being elected, basically for the same reasons that the previous speaker mentioned. I kind of like that control. In most of our surrounding towns, you will find that there's almost always a holdout position. I'm not sure that treasurer collector is the right position, but there are, in our surrounding towns, most towns have positions that are still elected. Mendon just recently addressed this with their highway superintendent and also with their town clerk. And the voters overwhelmingly decided to keep those positions elected. Again, they did not want to cede their authority to the board. This is, a tricky call. Everybody's going to have to make their own decision. I believe that there are plenty of candidates out there. It's, whether or not you think it's going to be the best candidate, that's a different story. But again, it is in our area, in small town Massachusetts, you do find that there is always positions. I find even Milford, for instance, I believe they have 1 or 2 positions that are salaried that are still controlled by the people, as opposed to, being under the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen. So again, I'll take the contrary side of that argument. I like to see these positions still remain elected and let the people control that seat as opposed to the board. Because I think, unfortunately, and I don't mean this, to critique anybody in one particular board, but as our town of government keeps evolving and evolving, the board tends to have, in my opinion, less and less authority as we keep moving forward. So again, it's a tough decision. Everybody's going to have to kind of, it's a little bit of a gut check. The other thing is procedurally, in our neighboring town, they actually have a meeting just like this and chose to put it to a ballot vote. So when they went to the ballot vote, that's how it was decided. Here we're doing a bylaw change, so it's circumventing the ballot vote. But that would be my opinion.
Maureen Dwinell. As an elected treasurer collector for 12 years in the town of Hopkinton, I brought forward an article to change it from an elected to an appointed position because I agree with what Brett has said. It's more intricate. I mean, when I left there, my budget was $80 million. And most often, people are voted because they're popular. And I just think this is much too important to let this go elected. I will vote for appointed. And it was also appointed for 15 years after that change. And as the treasurer collector, you still have your statutory authority, and you do things by Mass General law.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Dan Lazarus, 10 Farr Road. Just a quick question that the Finance Committee had been made aware of this and actually had any kind of discussion or recommendation or vote or any kind of advice to the citizens. Like most people, I actually attended, I shouldn't say most people, I was one of the few people who attended last Thursday night's Finance Committee meeting online, and I was told that I was willfully misinformed about understanding of this change. And to be honest with you, I'm on the Capital Committee, and I stay pretty apprised to town government, and I was completely surprised to see this. So my only concern is probably not the merits about qualifications. It's really something that's just come out of the blue. And like I said, I'd like to see what the discussion in the Finance Committee was related to that and their opinions. Because they are probably one of the last elected or appointed boards that actually provide some checks and balances that are also part of our financial system.
Yeah. FinCom, did you talk about this at all? Is there anything you want to comment on?
Not to that great extent, Mr. Moderator. The initial pass at it, it does not involve an expenditure. And historically, the Finance Committee has not passed or opined generally on matters that do not have a financial interest.
Sure.
Mr. Moderator, if I may,
Yep.
I will speak for myself
Sure.
on this. When you run for office, it's not necessarily the most qualified person that gets elected. Current elected people exempt. But
Thank you.
But this position is one of the most important positions in the town. The treasurer is the keeper of all town funds. How they're invested, what interest you get, whatever you want to call it. They're the keeper of the funds. It is too important to keep it in an elected position. Was that thing we just had? If I might. The Department of Revenue. The Department of Revenue, Division of Local Services, states that the principle in local government is that policymakers should be elected in operational positions where specific qualification and skill sets are required should be appointed. And if you want to talk about qualifications and skill sets, I think you're looking directly at the treasurer's position.
Thank you. Mr. Holmes.
Al Holman, 48 Mechanic Street. Quick question. Every year we get an audit. We're audited by an accounting firm, and they make recommendations. Over the past 3 years, what has been their recommendation?
Great question, and can we just show some of the slides, please? So just skip through some of the first slides, go right down to the question Mr. Holman has asked. So this is, Chairman Flaherty spoke to the Department of Revenue. They had written a statement to the town of Upton back in 2014, recommending that this, given the complexity of this position, that it go from appointed to, from elected to appointed. Next slide. Go ahead, next slide. In the management letters, to your question, there have been multiple management letters, and most recently the 2019 management letter that also makes a recommendation. You can see it down there, unfortunately we couldn't highlight it, where again outlines the recommendation to have this position be appointed. Next slide. Again, the same is to be said in the management letter in 2014 by our auditing firm, recommending that this position again be appointed. Next slide. 2012, the same to be said. Next slide. 2011, our management company, audit firm said the same. And then again, going back to 1995, recognizing that municipal finance is very complex. And the fact that some of us who've been doing this for a long time still get confused as to all the intricacies of what we need to do with free cash, debt service, tax title, the list goes on, and Ken can speak more in detail all the different things that have to get accomplished. So the goal here would be to try to replace an individual who has 23 years of institutional knowledge, right, and try to find someone who has that breadth of experience, and we hope to do that. But I can tell you something right now. One of my biggest concerns across the spectrum of departments, is how do we replace those individuals that continue to move on to the next chapter, whether it be in their career or move on to retirement. Chief Bradley is facing that right now. We've talked about this for 3 years now. The police department's having a major turnover, so the fire department continues to try to recruit qualified paramedic firefighters. Municipal finance is no different than that. Trying to find someone that has that experience and that education is extremely hard. And so, you know, if we left this up to the voters, and I get you, Mike, I hear what you have to say, and I appreciate the fact that, you know, the voters want to have local control. This is a very sensitive position to have that type of control, and you know, you're leading up to the voters to decide who's the most popular person. Hopefully, they can walk in on day one, and they can figure out how to move a piece of land through tax title in land court. So, again, I'll turn it back to the moderator.
Anything else? Oh, yeah. Time to count.
I just wanted to add one thing. There's also a treasurer school, a certification process to be a treasurer collector. And that takes 6 to 7 years to go through that process. So it's a lengthy process because, as everybody has mentioned, it's very complex. There's a lot of different laws that you need to learn. So it's, it takes a while to go through all the information and actually understand it, what it takes to be a treasurer collector. So I just wanted to let everybody know that. Thank you.
Anything else? Yes.
I do have a question. There are 2 people currently in this office, not as a town collector. Are they not appropriately prepared? And have we not been appropriately preparing them? Are they not willing? Are we not willing to even ask?
Well, since it was brought up as an issue by the treasurer collector, I guess that's a fair question.
We have a lot of confidence in our current staff. Both Jane and Deb do a great job, and they have been doing a great job supporting the needs of the treasurer collector in the office. So we feel very confident in their abilities to continue to carry this office forward. There's no doubt about that.
Okay.
But we don't feel confident that they could step up. And we're not even willing to consider it.
I don't.
We're not willing to consider
Them stepping up, we're not willing to put their names on the ballot. We're taking that away from these people that maybe had in hopes of getting this job, attaining this job, stepping up in their position. We're eliminating that to possibly qualified people that have been working for years alongside the current treasurer collector.
So you're concerned that by making this decision, it takes that away from them?
Correct.
What you're saying. Okay.
They could be appointed.
So, that's fair enough. That's your comment. Yeah. Anything else?
I would just add, the job would be posted publicly, so anybody could apply for the job.
Oh, thank you. So that's not to say that those individuals couldn't apply for the job if it were to become an appointed position. Just to make that clear. Okay, thank you. All righty. Anybody else? All right. So there's been a lot of discussion on this. Basically, let's just make sure that, what are we on now? I'm sorry. Article 30. Okay, so a yes vote on this means that you want to change the treasurer collector's position from an elected position to an appointed position. If that's what you want to do, you're going to hold the green card up. If you want to keep it as an elected position, you will hold up the red card. Everybody clear about that? And we'll go through the same process. I will look and get a visual, and if I can't make the call, we'll have a standing vote, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so all those in favor, hold up the green card. Okay, all those opposed, hold up the red card. Okay, the ayes have it. It passes by a majority. Okay, that's Article 30. Okay, Article 32. I move the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the General Court to amend Section 2 of Chapter 391 of the Acts of 2008 entitled, an act establishing the office of Town Manager in the Town of Upton, by adding under section 2G, hiring and appointing the Board of Assessor staff in consultation with the Board of Assessor, with such staff being subject to the town manager's authority pursuant to Chapter A of this section. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Comment? Yes. Mr. Marshall.
One question, is this person going to be a taxpayer? Like the elected assessors we have now and appointed ones?
Are they going to be a taxpayer? Is that your question?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe
Are
if
you
they
going to
live
appoint
in...
an assessor from out of town? Or are you going to have somebody in?
Oh, okay, fine. So the question is, do they have to be from in town versus out of town?
Correct.
Is there... Someone address that?
So just to be clear, what we're referring to is not the Board of Assessors, but the staff that work for the Board of Assessors. And so, right now we have somebody duly qualified for that position, does a great job, who actually lives in town. But if that person were to move on in her career, then it doesn't necessarily have to be, like any one of our appointed staff positions, someone from town.
So they don't have to live in town, but they might.
So this person is not a member of the Board of Assessors, you're just an agent working for the assessors? Because if you're going to be an assessor, you're going to be a taxpayer, right? Or a resident.
Okay. Maybe you need to explain, or
Okay,
someone needs to
so-
explain exactly what this
So,
motion means.
as a member of the Board of Assessors, and my co-member over there is Bill Taylor, so he can answer this as well. What the assessors are proposing is, instead of the Board of Assessors, the elected board appointing the staff, it goes through the town manager's office. So it becomes more of a, so the person still reports to the assessors in conjunction with the town manager.
Okay.
Okay? So this takes the appointing authority away from the Board of Assessors and puts it with the town manager. That's essentially what this motion means.
But the assessors is in conjunction with the assessors.
In conjunction with them, correct? Okay. Good. It's important that we're clear about what a motion is saying. So, all right. Any other discussion? Yes.
Is this for an assistant assessor, or is this for an assistant to the assessors?
Good question.
Because the article is actually reading in the Town Managers Act, it says assessor staff, it could be either one. So if we have someone that's qualified to be an assistant assessor, and we have that opportunity for, if the current person moves on and we have the opportunity for another assistant assessor to come in, then it would be hired by the town manager in consultation with the Board of Assessors. But if we don't have anyone that's qualified to be an assistant assessor, because just like the treasurer, you got to go through 6 years of school or 4 years of school, it could be someone, a department coordinator.
I was under the impression the assessor was an elected position, so that's why I'm confused.
Correct. The assessors, we will still have the 3 members of the Board of Assessors. It's just the staff in the office will be appointed by the town manager and not by the elected officials.
Thank you.
The day-to-day work will be appointed by the town manager. In consultation with the assessors.
Okay, great.
Still Scott Herwerk, still at 160 North Street. My question is why? Why is the assessors committee wanting to hand over this authority to the town manager? Because I think one of the things that I think there are a couple of people in here tonight that are a little concerned with, one,
part-time, but as an elected member, I'm not in the office every day. In this way, I have absolutely no doubt that the work that she does can be better coordinated with the rest of the people that she has to work with.
So I think this will benefit her and anybody who follows her, and more importantly, perhaps, will benefit the town by ensuring that all of the different functions work well together.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on this question? No? Okay. So again, the motion from Article 32 would be to have the people who work in the Board of Assessors office, right, be appointed by the town manager in consultation with the Board of Assessors. And at the moment, I can clarify, the Board of Assessors has that opportunity, has that authority by themselves right now. Is that correct? Okay, so that's what you're voting on. Yes, sir.
Just before we take the vote, just because Mr. Taylor mentioned it, and he alluded to working together, and I just want to provide a little bit of clarity in his remarks. So there's three major functions in municipal finance, as I see it. There's a treasurer collector office, which we just talked about. There's a town accountant's office, and then there's the assessing office. And so all three of them, up until 2020, have kind of been working separately. And they work together, but they still work separately. So by bringing this position under the appointment, again, in coordination with the Board of Assessors, so it's not independent, under the town manager's office, then this way we can then realign the three financial functions within town government. So you think about a lot of you folks work in separate, different firms out there, big corporations out there. You often see reorganizations, realignments. Our goal ultimately is to reorganize all of the municipal finance functions together so that they're one supporting each other, they're backing each other up, they're cross-training with one another so that they can be there when somebody else is absent and they can understand each other's roles. Right now, if anybody's ever gone to town hall, there's no bench. So when you go to the assessor's office, there's one person. When you go to the treasurer collector's office, there's two people. And so when you go to the town accountant's office, you have a half a person. So, we're trying to bring these together to try to be efficient with the taxpayers' dollars, right? We can't hire two positions in the Board of Assessors office to backfill each other. So if we bring them together, reorganize these functions, we think that, again, we'll be more efficient with the use of those dollars, and we'll provide a much better product. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, to deliver services in a more efficient and have the quality control that we think is necessary.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Dan Lazar's 10 Front Road. I think there's a theme that I want to pick up on one of the last previous speakers, which is, I don't think many people have a lot of problems with this. But why do you have to show up at town meeting and vote on it in less than a couple hours? These are dialogue questions that the community should be having. Our elected leaders, Board of Selectmen, we should be having the courage to have these conversations more regularly and educate people so they can show up and be very excited about making these changes, as opposed to being concerned and worried about what that means in the future. So we do actually have the Town Manager Act that got revised a few years ago that does require us to revisit that every 5 years. It'd be nice maybe to have the Board of Selectmen to start keeping a regular list of issues and topics that should be collected up. So when that board has to do its work in 5 years from now, when the committee gets elected to do its work, things like this can actually be on there. Because as being one of the co-chairs of that previous Town Manager Act Review Committee, the first one of the few things that did come back was, from a bunch of citizens that did take the time to give us some good feedback, was I'm not getting enough information, I'm not being educated enough to make informed decisions. So I think one of the things that should come out of this is, not that we need to make, that I'm not, in my case I support this one wholeheartedly, but you do show up these meetings and people are confused and misunderstood, and we get labels being grossly misinformed. No, not grossly misinformed, they're just not informed at all. And elected leaders have a job of informing people. So I think there's maybe some thoughts or some ideas about moving forward with things like this. The community chose to do a Town Manager Act as opposed to a Charter Commission when it reorganized to bring the Town Manager in. And so we basically maybe should take a cue from some of the communities that run a Charter Commission to essentially how to do things to be prepared for a 5-year review and an update as necessary.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, so I kind of explained what the vote is. I think you understand what you're voting for on this. So all those in favor of the motion from Article 32 with regard to the town manager being involved with the appointing of people who work in the assessor's office with the consent of the Board of Assessors, discussion with them, please hold your green card up. Okay, all opposed, hold the red card up. Again, it passes by a majority. So, okay. Article 33. I move that the town vote to amend Title II, Chapter 1 of the General Bylaws Town Meetings as printed in the warrant under Article 33. So if you look at your Finance Committee report, it's in there, but if somebody could just really briefly explain what this is doing.
Okay.
Madam Town.
So a couple of years ago, we voted to change the, Sandy, can you put the warrant article up so I can, so we voted to change to have the town meeting before the election. So the people that have been working all year long, when they go to town meeting, if something happens at the election, they can still participate in the town meeting. You know, we did that a couple of years ago. This year, that didn't quite work out because we did have the election beforehand. So anyway, so when we did that a couple of years ago, we pushed it out that the town meeting would be held on the first Thursday of the month, and then the election would be 12 days later. And what that did, that was fine. In all honesty, I did check with the school to make sure everything was good with them, and that first couple of years, that worked out well. But this year, if the students were in school, it really would have impacted some of their senior activities. They have an art show, they have a music concert, they have a lot of different things happening for the seniors. And for us to have our election on that particular Tuesday, it was going to impact all of their activities because it was getting pushed out until the 19th of the month. So, in cooperation with the school, I'm proposing that we would have our town meeting on Thursday, the first Thursday of the month, and then the following Tuesday is when we would have our election. The only thing that I will caution on, I'll give the good and the bad, or the other side to it, is if we have a town meeting that's going to be adjourned, we would need to complete that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, in order for it to be completed before the following election. I don't want to point that, I don't want to suggest that, but I also feel like we can get that done, and in my 19 years as town clerk, I think we've had maybe 1 or 2 adjourned town meetings, and that's only because of financial issues, not because of time.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, hold up your green card. Opposed, hold up the red card. Okay, the motion carries by a majority. Article 34. I move the town vote to amend Title II, Chapter 1, Sections 4 and 5 of the general bylaws as printed in the warrant under Article 34. Now, this is, so let's do this. The Board of Selectmen is the one proposing this bylaw change, correct? So why don't we have you explain what it is, and then we'll open up the discussion after that. There's a lot of lines, and there's a lot of underlines, and so on and so forth. If you wish to do that. The board? Okay. Town manager, however. Was there a second, by the way, for that?
Second.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a bylaw on the books that, as you can read right here, it requires certain public postings as it relates to the warrant for a town meeting. And in a lot of these public postings, some may consider them a little antiquated. And so what we're really trying to do, and we asked KP to kind of look around the spectrum of other towns across Massachusetts and find out how they post their town meeting warrants. And as you can imagine, they came back and they use the official town website as kind of the primary mode of posting the town warrant. And so we're suggesting here in this revision of how we post the warrant for both the annual town meeting and the special town meeting, that it would be posted at the bulletin board in Town Hall, which primarily is at the town clerk's office, which many folks go to when they need information. So that makes sense. The official website, as I just pointed out, and then within any other manner in which the Board of Selectmen deem appropriate. So right now, just for historical purposes, our primary places that we post the warrant is at the post office, behind the locked glass cabinet, and at the library. And so, what we're suggesting here is that the Board of Selectmen, so not only do we have to post in those two places, but then the Board of Selectmen can deem other places that they find necessary. So it could be at the Coffee Bean, where we know hundreds of people visit per day. It could be, again, at the library. It could be at the senior center. So anywhere that they think is appropriate. So that's really the genesis of this bylaw amendment.
Any other discussion? Okay. Madam Town Clerk, I wish to speak on this issue, so if you could take over the role as moderator and go through the process of nominating a moderator, or so on and so forth, because I wish to speak on this.
So you want me to get someone to nominate a
Yeah.
moderator?
That's the process.
In the absence of of a moderator, the town clerk steps in, so is there a nomination for a temporary moderator?
I nominate the Town Clerk, Kelly McGarrett, as moderator.
Is there a second? If you're in favor, hold your green card up. If you're opposed, hold up the red card. Passes unanimously. I am now your moderator. Would you like to speak?
Thank you. So, this is the first time I've ever done this as moderator, but I feel very passionately about this motion here. I have absolutely no problem with changing the bylaws to putting it online as an official posting of the warrant. Long overdue. Could have been done last year or even before that. I have a significant issue with the fact that the way this bylaw reads, and you have to look at all the details. Right now, it is required to have it posted in 3 locations. Town Hall, and 2 other locations that the Board of Selectmen can choose to do. But it is required that they do it. Okay? This change does not require the Board of Selectmen to post it anywhere else other than the Town Hall and on the website. I'm concerned about that. Because if it's up to their discretion, they could choose to post it somewhere, or they could choose not to post it somewhere. The last thing that I, as your moderator, want to see is the ability to lessen the information out there about the fact that we have a town meeting. Okay? So, I'm not going to make an amendment yet. I just want to tell you how I feel that the selectmen should still be required to post it. If for some reason the library is not a good location, or if the post office is not a good location, then we need to find other locations that are, let's say, more appropriate. I'm not saying they're not. I'm hearing that they're not. One good location would be the high school. Okay, they're not open now, I get that. But you put it on the principal's office. Imagine if you are a civics teacher, what a great civics lesson. Just say, oh, the town meeting is posted here at the high school. Let's take a look at that. Let's talk about it. How about the senior center? Okay, we could do it there. I guess my biggest concern, in addition to what I've just said, is the fact that while I know that 80 to 90, maybe even 95% of the people get their information online. That's fine, that's great, I got no problem with it. Essentially what this is saying is that you've got to get it online, whether you like it or not, or you have to go into the town hall to get the information. If the town hall is closed, you don't have the ability to do that. So, I'll see how the discussion goes. If I'm the only guy that's passionate about this, if I'm the only guy that really wants to make sure that the Board of Selectmen should continue to post this in 2 locations, be required to, that's the issue. If no one else feels strongly about this, then I'll step in. But if there's support for this, I have an amendment that I can make to make the language clean, but I want to see how the people feel about that before I say anything. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Holman?
I'm in total agreement that we have an issue with people who don't get copies of it or don't see the town warrant in advance of the town meeting. Several comments have been made tonight that sometimes is a problem. There's only one mechanism which would do that, which the town of Mendon takes advantage of at every town meeting they have. Does anybody want to guess what that is? They posted, they insert it in the newspaper. So every mailing address gets a copy of the warrant. That would eliminate the posting issue because it would be in everybody's mailbox. So that's just a suggestion.
Well, from what I see, the selectmen isn't really getting the amount of townspeople at these meetings already that they should have voting on all this stuff. And I got a nice piece of property, and if you need to put a sign up in my front yard, you know, you guys are more than welcome to do that.
Thank you, Mr.
Whatever it takes to get the people here, I'm all for that, because this, to me...
Thank you, Mr. Whitney.
Dan Lazarus, 10 Fur Road. I again stand in support of the moderator's public position as a citizen on this. To be honest with you, paying attention to this in the last few years and the blaming of the apathy of folks, I think that's not the case. I think this is an example of town government needing to evolve and change the way it does things. To be honest with you, I know more about Grafton's town meeting because I can watch a YouTube video where they explain all the warrant articles and the reasoning for them. I mean, we're just not doing some of these things. We're not engaging or educating the voter. So, constant theme, I think, to the moderator's point, requiring it to still be posted in 3 or 4 places is perfectly logical. If it doesn't happen, it may not happen next year ever again. So, I think the point that's some excellent points brought up by the moderator.
Okay.
So, I guess what I would like to do is this. I would like to make an amendment to this motion.
Okay.
And what to make it easy from a grammatical point of view, the amendment is going to completely remove all of that and have it be what I read now. Okay? Because the way it's worded, it's hard to just piecemeal the putting it back in there to require it to be posted. Okay, so let me read the amendment, and I think it'll make sense. And if you support it, we can discuss it more. So, the amendment would say, notices of every town meeting shall be given by posting copies of the warrant for such meeting on the town clerk's bulletin board at Town Hall, comma, on the town's official website, comma, and at 2 or more conspicuous public places in the Town of Upton that the Board of Selectmen deems appropriate. However, inadvertent failure to post on the website or any interruption in service to such website shall not affect the validity of the noticed town meeting. So I'm just keeping the wording in there with regard to if the website goes down, it's still official. So that would be section 4. Okay? Section 5 would be the exact same thing, except I think the only difference is that the word adjourned is in there. I think everything else about section 5 is the same. With regard to the newspaper stuff at the bottom, okay, right now that isn't a requirement, so I haven't addressed that particular aspect of it, quite frankly. Okay, I don't have any comment on that. But what this amendment does is put it back to exactly the way it was, but says we can put it on the website too, which is a great idea.
Okay.
Okay,
Why
so
don't I
that's
take-
what the amendment is.
So why don't I take it so I can read it? Is there a second? So it's been moved and seconded, and I will read it again.
Thank you.
Hopefully I can do it without my glasses. Section 4, notices of every town meeting shall be given by posting copies of the warrant for such meeting on the town clerk's bulletin board, at the town hall, on the town's official website, and at 2 or more conspicuous public places in the town of Upton that the Board of Selectmen deems appropriate. However, inadvertent and...
Just what it says up there.
Yeah, inadvertent and this whole language that says if the website goes down, it's still official. And then section 5, notice of every adjourned town meeting shall be posted in the same manner. So in other words, if we were to actually have a meeting that was adjourned, we'd have to post it the same way. So it has been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, if you're in favor of the amendment that's been made to the motion, raise your green cards.
I'm not a green card, but we're paying.
If you're not in favor, raise your red cards. Okay, the amendment passes unanimous. Okay, so the new motion is the amended motion. So Article 34 is the amended motion that you just voted for. So, all those in favor of the amended motion, raise your green cards. All those who are not, raise your red cards. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
I now, can we take a motion to appoint the moderator back to moderating? Is there a second? If you're in favor, raise your green card, please. All right, moderator, red card?
We'll go to the vote. Thank you very much, Kelly. Okay, once again, thank you very much, I appreciate it. Okay, Article 35, right? 6, okay.
Mr. Moderator, could we recognize Madam Town Clerk for her excellent job as the interim moderator?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you very much. I do want to say I didn't sandbag her. I told her before the meeting that I might be speaking, so I just want you to know that, okay? All right. Article 30, okay. Before we do Article 36, I just wanted to make a quick comment, because afterwards everyone's going to want to run away. So I just want to say, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I know it's a tough night, and everyone has a lot of feelings about a lot of things. I appreciate and respect that. What I do want to ask, though, is that when you leave, please, those of you who are quite frankly closest to the exit, if you could leave first, and do it as best you can with social distancing. We have exits you can leave out of. You don't all have to go out the door here. There's 2 side doors there, and there is actually a side door over this way that you can leave by. Okay? And I also ask that you not congregate in the area out there. Typically we do that. Please don't do it tonight. Once you get outside the doors, it's up to you if you want to congregate with each other, because you're outside of the building, okay? And you're away from everybody. And so once again, thank you all very much under a very difficult situation that we had to deal with at town meeting. So now we will deal with the motion for Article 36. I move that the town vote to accept as a public way the roadway known as Azalea Lane, shown on a planning card, a layout plan of Azalea Lane, J.R. Estates, Upton, Mass., dated August 22nd, 2019. Prepared by Gary Aaron Halmon Incorporated and on file with the town clerk. And authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by gift, purchase, and/or eminent domain the fee to and/or easements in Azalea Lane for all purposes for public ways, for all purposes for which public ways are used in the town of Upton, and any drainage, utility, and/or other easements. Second. Mr. Bohan.
Planning Board recommends favorable action.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or any need to comment on that? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Excuse me, but the green card, thank you. All those opposed, red card. Passed unanimously. So, please, we got a motion here. Mr. Robertson?
I move that the warrant be resolved and the meeting adjourned.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we dissolve the warrant and adjourn the meeting. All those in favor, hold your green card. Opposed, red card. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all very, very much. Good night.